Think billion-dollar companies are bulletproof? Think again. These 10 shocking collapses prove that even giants can fall. Watch till the end, because the lessons inside might just save your future business. Welcome back to the Top 10 Facts Club. If you're dreaming of launching or scaling your own business, learning from these legendary failures is non-negotiable. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the secrets of success and the warnings of failure. We're counting down from number 10 to number 1, so make sure you stick around to the end for the one lesson every entrepreneur must hear. Let's jump into 10 major business failures and the priceless lessons they left behind. 10. Google Glass, when tech outruns humanity. It had the hype of a revolution and the crash of a bad sci-fi movie. Google Glass promised to change the world, but forgot to ask if people were ready for it. In 2012, Google unveiled Google Glass, a futuristic set of augmented reality glasses that displayed information right in your line of sight. It was sleek, it was groundbreaking, and it was a massive public relations disaster. The problems were immediate. Glass was expensive at $1,500, buggy, and awkward to wear. People were uncomfortable with users potentially recording everything around them. Glass holes, as critics called early adopters, quickly became cultural pariahs. Google launched the product before society was ready, without solving key emotional objections like trust, comfort, and real utility. Within 2 years, Glass was quietly shelved from the consumer market. It lives on today only in industrial and medical settings, far from its original mass-market dream. Lesson: disruptive technology is powerful, but if you ignore human emotions, your innovation will fail before it even gets a chance. Tech can move fast, but trust moves slow, and without trust, even genius ideas crash and burn. 9. Toys R Us, betting on nostalgia instead of strategy. Toys R Us was the childhood haven for millions, but when the digital age arrived, they failed to compete. Instead of investing in e-commerce or improving customer experience, they made poor strategic choices, like outsourcing their online operations to Amazon, who would later become their biggest competitor. Heavy debt from a leveraged buyout further crippled their ability to adapt. Saddled with financial obligations, they lacked the flexibility to innovate. By the time they tried to modernize, it was already too late. They filed for bankruptcy in 2017 and closed hundreds of stores. Toys R Us underestimated how drastically shopping behavior had changed. Their stores became outdated, their prices uncompetitive, and their online strategy non-existent. Nostalgia alone couldn't drive foot traffic in a world that had moved online. Lesson: brand loyalty isn't enough. In today's fast-paced market, nostalgia must be backed by strategic evolution. 8. Yahoo! How to lose $100 billion by saying no? Yahoo was once the king of the internet, worth over $125 billion. Then they made 2 devastating decisions: declining Google and Microsoft. Yahoo dominated the early internet era, setting the standard for search, email, news, and online advertising. But strategic indecision and leadership chaos doomed them. In 1998, Yahoo had the chance to buy a fledgling search engine called Google for just $1 million, but passed. Then, in 2008, Microsoft offered to buy Yahoo for $44.6 billion, a lifeline Yahoo rejected, believing they could win alone. Meanwhile, their competitors innovated faster. Google became the world's search giant. Facebook and other platforms stole advertising dollars. Yahoo's own product offerings became bloated, unfocused, and stale. Internal mismanagement, endless rebrands, and chasing too many markets at once fractured Yahoo's identity. Eventually, Yahoo's core assets were sold to Verizon for just $4.8 billion, a shadow of what it once was. Lesson: Opportunities don't just knock, they walk away if you hesitate. In business, indecision can cost you more than a wrong decision. 7. Sears, too big to change. Once the Amazon of its time, Sears became a cautionary tale of standing still. They revolutionized retail with their catalog business and dominated the American shopping scene for decades. But they failed to keep up with changing consumer preferences and the rise of e-commerce. Rather than investing in digital transformation or improving in-store experience, Sears allowed their stores to become outdated and ignored the growing dominance of Amazon and Walmart. Poor management decisions and heavy debt added to the problem. The leadership seemed more focused on financial engineering than retail reinvention. By the time they tried to adapt, it was too late. Their slow response to innovation, coupled with lack of strategic clarity, turned one of America's greatest brands into a cautionary tale. Lesson: size and legacy mean nothing without agility. Complacency is the silent killer of great businesses. Being big means nothing if you can't move fast. 6. WeWork, growth without profit is a mirage. WeWork was hyped as the future of work, until a failed IPO revealed it was more fantasy than business. WeWork took the simple idea of shared office spaces and turned it into a startup sensation. At its peak, the company reached a jaw-dropping $47 billion valuation. But behind the cool branding and sleek offices, the numbers never made sense. The company signed long-term leases but brought in short-term tenants, bleeding cash fast. Leadership under co-founder Adam Neumann was erratic and unchecked. Lavish spending, self-dealing, and a cult-like internal culture painted a picture of chaos, not strategy. When WeWork tried to go public, investors took a closer look and ran. The IPO imploded, its valuation tanked by over 90%, and the company laid off thousands. Lesson: a trendy exterior can't hide a broken business model. Real success needs real structure. Cool branding might fool headlines, but not investors. Sooner or later, reality checks the balance sheet. 5. MySpace, losing focus on the user. MySpace had the users, but not the vision. Facebook did. MySpace was once the most visited social media site in the world. It gave users unprecedented control over their profile pages and helped launch the careers of musicians and artists. But when Facebook entered the scene, MySpace failed to respond with meaningful innovation. Instead of improving user experience, they cluttered the site with ads, autoplay music, and confusing layouts. Facebook, by contrast, offered a cleaner, faster, and more engaging user interface. While MySpace focused on monetization, Facebook focused on usability and won. MySpace's management failed to prioritize long-term vision over short-term revenue. They also lacked a cohesive product strategy, and internal leadership turnover only added to the chaos. Their inability to respond to user feedback in real time caused them to rapidly lose relevance. Lesson: never underestimate user experience. If you stop listening to your users, someone else will, louder and better. 4. Theranos, hype without substance. Theranos was worth $9 billion before anyone realized the tech didn't work at all. Once the darling of Silicon Valley, Theranos promised to revolutionize healthcare with a small device that could perform hundreds of tests from a single drop of blood. The founder, Elizabeth Holmes, was celebrated as the next Steve Jobs. But behind the scenes, the company was built on secrecy and deception, faking demonstrations and manipulating data. Investors were dazzled by the promise, not the performance. Once the truth came out, Theranos crumbled, and Holmes was convicted of fraud. The downfall wasn't just about flawed tech. It was about a culture that prioritized image over integrity. Employees who raised concerns were silenced, and questions were met with intimidation instead of transparency. The media's obsession with a charismatic leader blinded many to the red flags. Lesson: vision is powerful, but execution matters more. If your product doesn't deliver, no amount of charisma or marketing can save you. A fake breakthrough may win headlines, but truth always wins the market. 3. Kodak invented the future, then ignored it. They created the first digital camera and buried it to protect their film business. Perhaps one of the most ironic in business history, Kodak didn't just dominate the photography industry, they actually invented the first digital camera back in 1975. Yes, they created the technology that would eventually lead to their downfall. Why didn't they capitalize on it? Because they feared it would eat into their film business, which at the time was a cash cow. They chose to hide their own invention, afraid of disrupting their revenue model. Meanwhile, competitors embraced digital photography and quickly left Kodak behind. The leadership failed to recognize that markets evolve, and by choosing to protect the status quo, Kodak sacrificed the very innovation that could have kept them relevant. Their story became a case study in how internal fear can override strategic foresight. Lesson: innovation is meaningless if you're too afraid to use it. Don't let fear of short-term loss blind you to long-term opportunity. If you won't disrupt yourself, someone else will, and they'll bury you with your own invention. 2. Nokia, too slow to embrace smartphones. They ruled mobile, but ignored the iPhone and clung to outdated software. Nokia once controlled over 40% of the global mobile phone market. Their hardware was iconic, their devices known for durability. But when Apple released the iPhone in 2007, Nokia failed to recognize the shift toward software-driven smartphones. They clung to their outdated operating system and refused to adopt Android or develop a competitive app ecosystem. Internal bureaucracy and fear of change paralyzed their response. Eventually, Nokia's mobile division was sold off and the company faded from the consumer spotlight. Nokia's downfall wasn't due to a single misstep, it was death by indecision. As competitors innovated rapidly, Nokia's internal teams were slowed by politics and a resistance to external collaboration. They ignored developer ecosystems and software innovation until it was far too late. Lesson: dominance can breed denial. In tech, staying relevant means adapting quickly before the market moves without you. In tech, the slow die fast. 1. Blockbuster. Ignoring innovation equals extinction. At its peak, Blockbuster could have owned Netflix for just $50 million. Instead, they laughed and sealed their own fate. Blockbuster wasn't just a video rental company, it was a cultural powerhouse, worth over $5 billion at its peak. But when Netflix approached them in 2000, offering to sell their fledgling DVD by mail business for $50 million, Blockbuster's executives dismissed the offer outright, literally laughing them out of the room. Rather than recognizing Netflix as a threat or opportunity, they doubled down on physical storefronts, late fees, and an outdated model. This wasn't just a tech oversight, it was arrogance. Blockbuster believed their dominance made them untouchable, and by the time they tried to compete with streaming, Netflix had already stolen the market. By 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. Netflix, meanwhile, became a $200+ billion global entertainment empire. Lesson: never get too comfortable. Technology doesn't care about your past success. You must continually evolve or risk becoming a relic of the past. Dismissing disruption doesn't protect your legacy, it destroys it. And there you have it, 10 major business failures that shook the world, and more importantly, what they teach us. So which lesson stuck with you the most? Drop it in the comments. We want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Top 10 Facts Club, and hit that notification bell so you're always ahead of the curve. Remember, failure is only fatal if you don't learn from it. and these lessons might just be your competitive edge. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and never stop learning.